Hello there. I am here this morning with my friend CJ from Darkside Leathercraft, and I love that. I love that name you have. So CJ and I met at a sex expo a little while ago, and CJ was hand making some kink and bondage wear, which I thought was really beautiful. The workmanship in it and the personalization was absolutely really beautiful and really special. So of course I bought some of her stuff and we became friends. Um, and we are having a chat this morning about all things kink and leather and whatever else it is that comes up. So good morning, CJ, and welcome.
Hi, John T. Thanks. Great opportunity today. Always good to see you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, we met last week when I was in Cape Town at Truth Coffee, which is such a cool place to meet and talk about kinky things with its steampunk look, and it really does fit.
Yeah,
And I
definitely.
did get some new toys from you, and we had really good coffee. So
Always. Yeah.
yeah, so let's start from the beginning. CJ, how did you get involved in this? What was the story, the journey for you?
So for me, my leather journey started back in 2018. I picked it up as a hobby, saw a video of somebody making something which I thought I can totally do. Walked off to the leather shop, which happened to be a couple of blocks from my corporate office, and bought a couple of things, and I haven't looked back since.
Wow, that's so interesting. So you're totally self-taught in this?
Yes, absolutely. I started to watch YouTube videos and then just started to mess around really. um as the hobby grew, I started to get more and more leather hides in the house and started to fill up a room, and all of my creations also started to fill up the cupboards. It was really a situation where you opened a cupboard and leather items fell out on you.
Mhm.
So we started to show friends and family that would come around, and they were very kind in supporting me, and totally fed my habits. So yeah, it just grew from there. Last year, I decided to leave my corporate job and do this full time. So it really started with the basics of leather wallets and handbags, and very quickly I was introduced to the kink community, who had an issue, or rather more a stumbling block, of trying to find exactly what they wanted in leather.
Hmm.
And so they approached me and said, can't you make this? Or can you make this mask, but with, a detachable muzzle, or an extra loop here, or a harness with a couple of extra hard points, so that kind of thing, which I absolutely loved doing, because it was not only introducing me to this community in a totally new way, but also giving me the opportunity to put my passion and care into an item for them, which they could use, which is always good.
Hmm. So you really specialize in making custom-made things.
Hmm.
That's really your
Yes.
thing.
Yes, so I do have a couple of standard, the wallets and the bags and that kind of
Hmm.
thing, which people can see on the website. But when it comes to kink, I find it is such a personalized thing. You can really hop online and grab a mass-produced item, but it might not be the right color that you want. It might not be the right size that you need. Unfortunately, with harnesses, the sizing is always wrong when you buy it online.
Yeah.
So what I offer is that custom experience. You come to me, or I'm happy to travel to where you are, do a couple of measurements, and then we make sure that it is fits you perfectly, but also has all of the connections and the extra points that you need on it.
Hmm. That's interesting, because we often think of so many of these experiences kind of as standard in a way. Um,
Mm,
and,
mm,
I think on a lot of the workshops I teach, for example, especially the more technique-based workshops, they are quite standard to some extent. But it's so important that the learning be personalized. Like
Mm.
you're not going to do something the way that I do it. You need to do it CJ's way, not my way. And
Yeah,
that's
no,
really
no,
important.
absolutely, absolutely. You know, and that's a lot of the times what I find is in the initial consultation with somebody, they're also a little bit hesitant, you know, to open up and tell me exactly what it is that that
Mm,
looking for. But they just know that it's something, you know, let's take the flogger, for example. They're looking for a flogger, but they're not quite sure what you know, what size they want, but they know that they want it in a specific color, what type of flogger they're looking for, but they want to just start that journey. So after sitting and having a nice conversation with them, you know, I tell them these are the options that I can do. And then we look at how we can customize it for them. And that's really where their journey starts, which I think is amazing. So I can give you exactly what you're looking for. That could be a start off, and then you can take that home and play with it a couple of times and see, okay, this works, this doesn't work, and then get back to me. And I love feedback on my items because that also allows me to know, look, this might have not worked for you, but as a standard product, it definitely will work for everybody else. You know, so
mm.
it's a journey that we really do walk together in that sense.
Yeah, that's beautiful, because a lot of times when people are exploring, they don't always have a space to talk about things
Mm,
like that.
mm,
And the important thing in it actually is the detail, because sometimes it's a small thing that does make such a difference.
mm,
Like
mm.
having a buckle here or a point where you can tie something there, because that's specific to what we enjoy. And
Yeah.
everybody's kind of turn on and arousal is so different
Mm,
in
mm.
this, and
Yeah.
sometimes so specific.
Yes. And that's the thing, you know, that's what I'm saying is that, you know, that's customization, you know, to make it uniquely yours
Mm,
is really what I enjoy doing. It's a challenge for me, you know. Sometimes I get asked to make something and I sit and I scratch my head because I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do it. But
mm,
you know, after a couple of tries, it works out, and I can hand it over to the client who, at the end of the day, becomes a friend, and we can walk that journey, as I say, together, which is
mm.
amazing.
Yeah, I love that, because in my work, the biggest thing for me, one of them anyway, is the connection, which allows us to really go deep. And that's so important.
Yeah.
So what drew you to the kinky side of things in the first place? Because there's obviously something inside of you that is drawn to something. What was the attraction in the beginning for you?
So in the beginning, look, my wife and I have been together for 21 years now,
Mm,
and we weren't kinky per se, you know,
mm,
very, very vanilla as far as I think what the community would call us.
yeah.
But after a couple of years, we decided, look, we need to invigorate our relationship. So let's give this a go. And we gave, you know, different things a go, trying a bit of this, trying a bit of that.
Mm,
Because in the era that I was raised, it was still very much known as a dark and seedy
yeah.
community. You know, the even today I see a lot of videos where people are still kink shamed,
Mm,
which you know I have absolutely no time for, and it makes me sad. But you know, at the end of the day, I realized that I would like to be a safe space for people to come to and say, look, this is really what I'm looking for.
mm,
And it really is a trust that they give me to make these items for them. So last year, just before the expo that we did together, I was actually out of town and got a call and was asked, you know, would I like to do this? And I was like, absolutely, I'll be there for sure. No idea what I was going to make though, but let's do it. And asked around a couple of friends and absolutely just fell in love with the scene to make those custom pieces.
mm,
And then of course after chatting to you as well and just collaborating on a few pieces as well, which has been amazing because again, it's an absolute journey for me to make these items.
Yeah, you know, because the journey into let's use the word kink in a broader sense is very much it's such an inner journey.
Yeah.
And when somebody can walk that with you in some way, it becomes so important to have those kind of connections.
Yeah, to feel safe enough to open up about it, I think is really important. Because I find as well with some of the ladies that come to me for harnesses, they have those sizing issues online, but they also have that I don't want something delivered to my house that looks a bit, suspicious.
Mm.
And then if it doesn't fit, then there's that whole body shaming, and it's a roller coaster ride of disappointment. So you come through and get what it is that you're looking for from the start and feel safe and open enough to do that with me, then I'm happy. It's absolute joy.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm just going to close the window behind me because there's a leaf blower. And I don't know how much noise comes inside, but it's there. Okay, that's fabulous. What have you enjoyed making the most? Like what are
I,
the things that you really enjoy?
well, I think for me it's the masks.
Yeah.
Uh, the masks that I make, I've got some standing here next to me. I've got the don't know how much you get. There we go.
There we go.
So the puppy mask that has a detachable muzzle, for king play. And the more challenging ones like the Cthulhu mask,
Wow.
with the movable tentacles, so things like that. I love making those because they are challenging, but
Hmm.
also again because there is this need where people are like, we love to do different scenes and we love to do different dress ups and different personas, but we can't find the masks to go with it.
Hmm.
And I'm happy to step in there and say, well, just tell me what color you want it in, and I'll make it happen.
Hmm. And that's important because again, it's the specifics that are so important, the details.
Mm, mm,
You know, when we talk about fantasy, because a lot of this it begins with some kind of a fantasy, or we
mm.
see something, we watch something, we read something, and it wakes something up inside of us, it triggers something.
Yeah.
And when I explore this with people, the detail becomes so important in experiencing and expressing our fantasies. And
Mm,
without that detail, so much gets lost. You know,
yeah.
it's something so specific, like a word or a phrase that's said in a very specific way, or there's an action, there's something that is just, it's the detail that's so important. And when we share that with our partners, that's what we'd like to experience, we really get the power of the detail.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, even if you look at the one of your favorites, I know.
Yes, I love that one. Sorry.
So even if we look at something like this, it might seem such a simple and easy idea if you look at it. I mean, it's a strip of leather with a handle on it, but it's what you do with it, and how you approach your partner, and how you play with this, and make it uniquely yours. I think that elevates this to more than just a piece of leather with a handle on it.
Yeah. So share what that originally was designed for, what you had in mind.
Yeah, so originally this started as one of these bad boys, which was well, it is a pedal that
Mhm.
has a heart cut out in it, and you know we actually had a conversation, and you mentioned that wouldn't it be great to have a smaller one that you could use on nipples and getting a bit more interesting with getting down to yonis as well.
Yeah.
And so I sat and I looked and I thought, well, it's doable. Everything is doable.
Mm,
And we came up with this one.
yeah.
And yeah, absolute magic. I can't complain as far as this item is concerned.
You know what I
Um,
love about that, CJ? There's a few things. The first one is it actually doesn't really matter how hard you hit with it. It's never painful. It's so
yeah.
much more about sensation. And this is such a big thing. You know, when a lot of people hear the word bondage or BDSM, immediately their mind goes to pain. And so many
Mm,
people say, I'm not into pain. And it's so much more about sensation
yeah,
than pain. And
absolutely.
something never actually has to be painful. Um, you know, my connection to this world more than anything else is pleasure, um,
Mm,
and the sensation and the energy of that, and how that can even be a path to expanded states of consciousness and to healing, which I've seen so
mm.
much of over time. Um, and in that, pain never has to be a part of that. And
No.
for that small flogger, I mean, the amount of orgasmic pleasure that that little flogger has brought has been amazing,
Mm.
all over the body. And it's never about, it doesn't have to be about pain.
Yes, no, no, absolutely, and that's as well. I think a stigma that really has been traveling with a BDSM slash kink community
Mm,
for many years now, which I really, you know, I wish I could climb into it and just remove all of that
yeah.
stigma because it is so unfounded. There's definitely an avenue and a kink for pain that's an avenue that anybody can, also say there is for sure, but it's not the overbearing only kink there is, as far as this whole community is concerned. You were saying sensation, and we look at floggers. I mean, this is the one that we chatted about that's got the furry tassels as well
Mm,
as slightly more spicy leather. And it really is a sensation that is amazing because you get that soft touch from the fur with a little bit of a sting afterwards from the leather. But again, it's not a pain inducing item. It's
mm.
more, as you say, totally sensation. That's, I think, 99% of the items that I make is always about sensation. Always.
Yeah. And you know what you said there, I think, is important because for so many people, like if you look at the masks, it's the actual putting on of the mask that is so powerful. It's not only the mask itself, it's like the action, the ritual that goes with it, getting into something. It was a
Yeah.
long time ago. I was very privileged to spend some time with some amazing dominatrixes who really
Mm,
taught me a lot. And one of them said something I've never forgotten. She said, anybody can hurt anybody.
mm,
It doesn't matter how small you are or how little physical strength you might have. You can always find a way to physically hurt someone.
mm.
You can find an implement. You can always do that. But this is so much more of an emotional connection, so much more of a mental connection. It's so much more of a mind and feeling experience. And
Yeah.
when you create that, you're kind of creating the fullness of the experience, putting it in a context, not just picking up a flogger and hitting someone.
No, absolutely. And are profound words for sure. But it's absolutely true. When you are two consenting adults and it's going off of sensation and that ability to take what somebody is asking for and translate that in a loving and safe environment, I think is so powerful, so powerful.
Yeah, because a lot of that is it's intimate, and that's one of the things about having something that's handmade for you in a way is the intimacy of it. Because
Yes.
when something is for you, it's intimate. Like when you take the time to say, this is what I want, there's an incredible ownership
Mm,
of
mm,
that. And there's something I've been talking about lately. It was a piece that I read. It was about relationships, and it was about the idea of ownership in a relationship, but not ownership in a possessive sense. Ownership in terms of an engagement. It's like, if this is my relationship and I'm taking ownership of it, then I'm going to engage in my relationship. There's an inclusion in that. There's a learning about relationship. There's a growth. There's an expansion.
Absolutely.
And, we mostly do that in our lives. We do it at work, because if we don't keep learning, then eventually somebody says to us, well, go home.
Yeah.
And we do it with some of the things like hobbies or health. You want to learn about eating healthier, for example. You learn a little bit. You learn about different ways of cooking, different things that you can eat. But we often don't do that with our relationships, or we don't do it with our sexuality and our pleasure. And we just kind of expect that they're all going to happen and happen naturally, instead of understanding, actually, we need to learn this. We need to engage. We need to explore. We need to talk. We need feedback on things. And that creates an intimacy with this.
Absolutely. And it can totally open whole new worlds to you. You sit and you just think, if you sit and you read books, on whatever subject, whether it be that you enjoy reading about cooking, or, as you were saying, different topics, but it allows you to enter different worlds and new experiences. And that can absolutely invigorate not only yourself, but the relationship that you're having with that person that is with you. Be it just for a scene, or be it for, long-term relationship that you're in.
Yeah.
As I say, whole new worlds can be opened for sure.
Yeah, because it allows us to step into different roles, to explore different aspects of ourselves.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that changes the dynamics between us. It brings things up for us to connect with. Some of it might be, wow, that's really challenging. Some of it is so pleasurable that it becomes challenging, because the power of it that it wakes up is amazing.
Yeah, no, definitely. Definitely.
There's a lot in this. How long does it take you to make a flogger, by the way?
Well, I think, it depends on which ones we're making. If we're looking at the leather ones.
Yes, I got one of those last week from you in red. It just looks so beautiful. The weight of it is amazing.
Yeah, so if you look at something like this, it will usually take me 2 to 3 days to make it. Just purely because of the plaiting of the handle, and you've got to wait for some things to settle, or some glue to dry here or there. Then 2 to 3 days, I think, is the standard time that it would take for a flogger. The pedals also 1 to 2 days. But what I try to do is I try to keep a bit of stock of some of the things, just in standard colors. And then if you want something custom, then you're looking at a little bit longer. I usually say 2 weeks, just in case I need to go and find unicorn colored leather somewhere. It's not something that's standard off the shelf or that I've got in stock.
Yeah. And that's beautiful, the time, because again, it connects to the time that we would spend an experience like this, because it's not well, I mean, you can have quickie little plays, but it's generally it's a more committed experience.
Yes, no, absolutely. Rather, taking your time and exploring it together, I think is definitely time well spent.
Yeah. What have you learned about yourself in this?
For me, I think I've learned not to be that quick to judge. I think that I myself had prejudices before I came into this, which was a hard lesson to learn. In the sense of, you see somebody and they might look what I would term vanilla, very straight-laced looking person. only to sit and have a conversation with them and say, wow, you know, that was my prejudice seeing that. And they are actually very open-minded and a lot of fun, uh, which I think was one of the more difficult lessons to learn for me, which was not to be too quick to judge. But as far as the leather is concerned, what I learned is that I need to take my time when making an item. Trying to rush something doesn't get you anywhere. You know, mistakes will happen. Mistakes are costly. So rather take your time, and good planning goes a long way when it comes to these items, because it's great to make a little sample item, but really think it through. Like the flogger, I know we were discussing, I said to you that I don't like putting handles on the back here because I find a lot of people will just try and lace it around their wrist, which you may or may not know, but is not very good when you are busy flogging. So I made a detachable loop that you can put on. So it's not only for putting it away, but it'll also fit on your belt. So if you're still wearing pants or you have a belt around your waist or a harness as such, you can just thread your harness or your belt through, and you can go hands-free while you're not using the flogger, and then when you need it again. So it's little things like that, which I think, you know, I took the time to think of, okay, this is the issue that I'm having with a standard flogger. Now let's take the time and come up with a good solution for it.
So talk a little bit about why it's not such a good idea to have a wrist strap.
So I found that when you're flogging, a good, well-weighted flogger is very balanced in your hand. And when it comes to flogging, you can actually develop bad joints from it because you are in a constant motion. But when you start out with flogging, you might not have your technique down. So when the flogging comes through, you can, as I say, start developing some bad joints. So just the fact that you're not having that constant weight on your wrist the whole time from the little strap will totally eliminate that. I don't know if you can talk more about the safety in the scene from that point.
Yeah, it's really important because firstly, from a flogging point of view, you want a really free motion. And if there's anything impedes that, then ultimately it does, you know, it's like using a mouse lots on the computer. And so many people today develop like carpal tunnel syndrome from using a mouse so much.
Yeah,
Things like that.
absolutely.
So we often don't translate that into some of the sexual things that we do. And, you know, over time, I've learned that sexual fitness is totally separate and different to almost any other kinds of fitness. Like if you think of some of the positions that you're in, and especially if you're going to have like a wide range of sexual experiences, there's very specific muscle use.
Yes.
And to develop and strengthen and you know, you need to be strong and you need to be supple to have like really good, really deep sex, especially for extended time periods.
Yeah, which as you say, people don't always think about. You know, they think, oh, you know, why do I need to do these stretches? Or, you know, it's sex. Come on. But you know, at the end of the day, you are absolutely right. It's also looking after your body, staying hydrated, you know, doing all of these stretches, which is super important because again, you'll realize that it's a different set of muscles that you use, which you might not always use in a daily setting of just getting up and walking to work, sitting down at a desk, you know, in an office all day long. It's totally different. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very much kind of a dance, you know, and if you think of using a flog, it's very much that movement of a dance. And there's a beautiful practice that I love that's called meditative flogging. And that's a practice whereby You have the same rhythm, the same speed, the same pressure, and it's for like a minimum of about 30, 35, 40 minutes before it gets into that trance-like state. So when there's like a similar stimulation for the nervous system and it's repetitive, it takes us into that trance state.
Yeah.
So it allows all of our patterning, all of our default mechanisms to drop. So it's almost like it's like a meditative state, but it takes us time to get there because it takes time for the nervous system to drop,
Yeah.
to allow that meditative space. And if you think of being able to do that, I wrote a piece a little while ago that's about our pleasure capacity. And part of it says that to go into deeper experiences, we need to build our capacity for that. And a big part of the capacity, like for an experience like that, firstly, is presence, to be able to stay focused and concentrated for that amount of time. And meditation is a great analogy for this, because when you first learn to meditate, you can only do that really for short periods of time.
Yes.
And then we get bored, then we get
Mind
frustrated,
wanders,
we get
yes.
restless. But as we spend longer and longer doing it, we can actually spend more time in that state. So if you think about picking up a flogger and for 30, 40 minutes, you're going to do the same rhythm. A lot of that is dependent on presence, because if you're not present, you're going to be out of that rhythm.
Yes, absolutely.
Then we get bored, we get restless, and I want to hurry this up. I want to go harder, I want to go faster, I want to do other things. So it takes a development of the mind and of the body.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's where it's kind of such an inner journey that we don't always think about. And then there's learning the technique of how to do this properly. That
Correct.
we can do that for a long time for ourselves and for our partners.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it can be such a wonderful journey together. But as you say, if you aren't present, not only will your experience not be a good one, but the person that you are with at the time will also suffer in that aspect. So yeah, presence, very, very important, super important.
And then I love the fact that, doing this in the way that you do, it really is an experience of presence. The time that you take with these things.
Yeah, I just feel that, I love making these items, and, nothing is above or beyond or too seedy, as some people would say. There's no such thing here. I love making them. I try to put a bit of myself into every single one of them. Not only by time spent, but also the precision that I take to make the items. It's just, I love doing it, and I want that love to be translated through the precision, so that you can feel once you take this item home and use it, that it wasn't just a wham bam thank you ma'am item that was thrown together. It was, thought was put into every stitch, every hole. Literally every hole that I punch is a singular hole. So if you take an item like our little favorite flogger here, has got I think it was 89 holes on it, and each one of those is punched individually. So it's not like, it's just a quick thing to put together. It's presence and time and love that gets put into these items.
There's a devotion in that. There's an element of the sacred in that. Because it definitely comes from that space, the time that you spend and the way that you do it.
Yes, I lose hours when I make these items, because, as you say, it does become so meditative that, when I'm plaiting the handles of the floggers, or if I'm busy stitching the masks together, it's something that you know, I sit and I think, and I do eventually start saying a few mantras, you know, in my mind as well.
Yeah.
I might have some music playing in the background or some true crime podcast. Who knows what's going on? You know,
Are you
it's
a
just,
true crime fan, CJ?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. If
Okay.
Spotify isn't going, then I've got some sort of true crime going. So
Okay.
I punch and stab things for a living. So
And leather,
yeah,
absolutely. So it certainly fits.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
definitely.
because it's amazing how these things are such a part of when you do it in this way, how there's such an expression of so many aspects of ourselves.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
one of the reasons that I do what I do is it allows me to express so many different aspects of myself, and I
Mm,
absolutely love that. And that's where it becomes like a soul expression, not just a kind of mind expression. You know, I
mm,
do it because I can, or I'm good at it, or it's because what I do, or I earn lots of money from it, or whatever. It's when it
mm, mm,
becomes that personal, it makes it very, very different.
mm.
And that's where it, I think, becomes this constant journey of exploration. And I know that I love to look at things and see how we can use them in different ways. I go into a shop and I see something and my mind goes, oh, what can we do with that on a body, for example?
Mm.
And I love to find some of these things and share them with you and think, wow, what can we do with this?
Yeah.
And it becomes
Which is
really
yeah,
exciting.
an amazing approach because you know you see certain things which might not be you know your everyday use for an item. I remember somebody, one of my clients came through to me with a spatula one day and
Mm,
said, you know, this she loves baking, she loves making items, but she would like this in leather. And again, not something that I ever would have thought of. Hey, let's look at this, you know, in that light. But it, again, as I said, it opens up new worlds. Absolutely.
so it becomes such a creative expression.
Mm, mm.
That's beautiful. Oh, CJ, I've really enjoyed this with you. Thank you. I think we need to talk more about this. Um, but I've loved this and I love what you're doing. What's your website? Where do people find you?
So you can find me on all socials, Darkside Leathercraft. I do have a website. It's darksideleathercraft.co.za. Yeah, I'm always posting and showing what's new on the bench or, you know, little behind the scenes videos of how I put color or thread or, you know, anything. Socials, check it out. You can see me there.
Beautiful. Thank you. I
Great.
hope you have a wonderful day. I look forward to seeing you again soon,
Thanks, Johnson.
sharing and playing with all the wonderful things that you make.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful.